I have a challenge for you. For the next 7 days, stop making excuses, stop negotiating with your goals, and stop acting like the person you used to be. Because if you do what most people won't do for 7 days, you'll become someone most people will never become. Most people think transformation takes years. They think success is a slow process that requires perfect timing, perfect conditions, and some special advantage that only a few people have. They spend months planning, years preparing, and a lifetime waiting. Meanwhile, the people who completely change their lives are not waiting for the perfect moment. They are making a decision. The truth is that you can become unrecognizable in 7 days. Not because your bank account will suddenly multiply overnight. Not because your body will completely transform in 1 week. Not because every problem in your life will disappear. You become unrecognizable the moment your standards change. The greatest changes in life do not happen when your circumstances change. They happen when your identity changes. Most people are trying to improve their results while remaining the same person. They want a better future with the same habits. They want more money with the same thinking. They want a stronger body with the same discipline. They want extraordinary outcomes while maintaining ordinary behaviors. Life doesn't work that way. Your current results are a reflection of your current identity. If you want a different future, you must become a different person. Think about it. Every successful person you admire was once unknown. Every confident leader was once insecure. Every wealthy entrepreneur was once struggling. Every disciplined individual was once distracted. The difference is not that they had fewer obstacles. The difference is that they reached a moment where they stopped negotiating with their tea. And that is exactly what these next 7 days are about. The first day begins with a decision, not a wish, not a hope, not a goal written in a notebook that gets forgotten after 48 hours. A decision. A real decision is different from a preference. Many people prefer success. Few decide they will have it. Many people prefer health. Few decide they will create it. Many people prefer freedom. Few decide they will pay the price required to earn it. When you make a genuine decision, something changes inside you. You stop asking whether something is possible and start asking what it will take. You stop looking for excuses and start looking for answers. You stop focusing on obstacles and start focusing on opportunities. One decision can change the direction of your entire life. But here's the challenge. Most people make decisions emotionally and abandon them when reality becomes uncomfortable. They feel motivated on Monday and quit on Thursday. They get excited about change until change demands sacrifice. And that is why their lives remain the same. Transformation requires commitment beyond emotion. Anyone can stay focused when they feel inspired. Champions stay focused when they don't. Over the next 7 days, you must stop allowing your feelings to determine your actions. Your future does not care how motivated you feel. Your future responds to what you repeatedly do. Every action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust with yourself. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken that trust. The strongest people are not people who never fail. They are people who refuse to quit. They understand that discipline is remembering what you want most when you're tempted by what you want now. The second thing that must happen during these 7 days is elimination. You cannot become someone new while protecting the habits that created your current limitations. Many people are obsessed with adding more things to their lives. More books, more courses, more strategies, more information. But often the breakthrough comes from removing something. Removing distractions, removing excuses, removing toxic influences, removing unnecessary entertainment, removing habits that steal your energy. Success is not only about what you start, it is also about what you stop. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks while trying to run toward your future. You could train harder, you could push more, you could struggle with greater effort, or you could simply remove the rocks. Many people are exhausted, not because they lack potential, but because they are carrying things they were never meant to carry. Old excuses, old fears, old stories, old limitations. For years they have been telling themselves the same narrative. I'm not qualified. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough connections. And every time they repeat those stories, They reinforce the prison they are living in. Your mind believes what you repeatedly tell it. If you keep telling yourself why something cannot happen, your brain will find evidence to support that belief. If you start telling yourself why something can happen, your brain will begin searching for opportunities. Your life moves in the direction of your dominant thoughts. That is why the next 7 days require a complete mental reset. Guard your thoughts. Protect your focus. Pay attention to what you allow into your mind, because everything begins there. Every achievement begins as a thought. Every business begins as a thought. Every breakthrough begins as a thought. And every limitation begins as a thought too. The battle for your future is first won or lost in your mind. Everything changes the moment you make a real decision. Not a wish, not a hope, not a New Year's resolution that disappears after a few weeks. A decision. Most people think they need more motivation to change their lives. They spend their time watching videos, reading books, and searching for inspiration, hoping that one day they will finally feel ready. But the truth is that transformation does not begin with motivation. It begins with a decision. There is a massive difference between being interested in change and being committed to change. When you are interested, you do what is convenient. When you are committed, you do whatever is necessary. The reason many people stay stuck is because they have never truly decided who they are going to become. They want better results, but they have not made a firm commitment to becoming a better person. They want success, but they are still emotionally attached to the habits that create failure. They want confidence, but they continue to think and act like someone who doubts themselves. Your life cannot outperform your identity for long. You may experience temporary success, temporary motivation, or temporary progress, but eventually your results will return to the level of the person you believe yourself to be. That is why lasting transformation is not about changing what you do first. It is about changing who you believe you are. Most people wake up every day and reinforce an identity they no longer want. They tell themselves they are procrastinators. They tell themselves they are unlucky. They tell themselves they are bad with money. They tell themselves they are not disciplined enough. They tell themselves they have always been this way. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Your identity acts like a thermostat. No matter how much temporary progress you make, your behaviors will eventually return to the level of your self-image. If you see yourself as average, you will settle for average. If you see yourself as weak, you will act weak. If you see yourself as someone who quits, you will find reasons to quit. The most powerful thing you can do is make a decision that changes the way you see yourself. Instead of saying, I want to be disciplined, start saying, I am a disciplined person. Instead of saying, I want to be successful, start saying, I am becoming the kind of person who creates success. Instead of saying, I hope I can change my life, start saying, I am no longer the person who accepts excuses. Because every action you take is connected to the identity you hold. A person who identifies as a winner behaves differently than a person who identifies as a yord. But a person who identifies as a leader makes different decisions than a person who identifies as a winner. Follower. A person who identifies as disciplined responds differently to challenges than someone who identifies as lazy. The greatest transformations in history started with a change in identity long before there was a change in results. Before anyone saw the success, the individual had already become the person capable of creating it. Before the wealth arrived, they became someone who thought differently. Before the confidence appeared, they became someone who refused to be controlled by fear. Before the victory was visible, they had already won the battle in their mind. That is why these next 7 days are so important. You are not trying to change your entire life in 1 week. You are changing the person who is living that life. You are making a declaration that the old version of you no longer has control. The version that procrastinated. The version that doubted. The version that made excuses. The version that waited for perfect conditions. The version that talked about dreams more than they worked on them. That version has taken you as far as it can take you. If you want different results, you need a different identity. And identity changes through decisions backed by action. Every morning you wake up, you have an opportunity to cast a vote for the person you want to become. Every choice matters. Every action matters. Every promise you keep to yourself matters. When you wake up early, instead of hitting snooze, you cast a vote for discipline. When you work on your goals instead of scrolling endlessly, you cast a vote for success. When you choose growth over comfort, you cast a vote for excellence. When you keep going even when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for resilience. Those votes may seem small in the moment, but over time they create a completely new identity. The world often tells people to fake it until they make it, but the truth is much deeper than that. You do not need to pretend to be someone you are not. You need to start acting like the person you are becoming, because every great achievement begins with a decision to stop settling, a decision to stop shrinking, a decision to stop living beneath your potential, a decision to become the person your future requires. And when that decision becomes real, something incredible happens. Your standards rise. Your focus sharpens. Your excuses lose their power. Your actions begin to align with your vision. That is the moment your transformation begins. Not when your circumstances change. Not when your bank account changes. Not when other people finally believe in you. The transformation begins the moment you decide that from this day forward, you will no longer identify with the person you used to be. You will identify with the person you are determined to become. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to transform their lives is believing that success is only about adding more things. They think they need another book, another course, another strategy, another piece of advice, or another source of motivation. They spend years collecting information, but never stop to ask themselves a simple question. What habits are keeping me exactly where I am? Sometimes the greatest breakthrough in your life will not come from what you start doing. It will come from what you stop doing. The truth is that every habit is taking you somewhere. Every repeated action is moving you toward a destination. Whether you realize it or not, your daily habits are creating your future. The life you have today is not an accident. It is the result of what you have consistently practiced. Your habits have shaped your identity, your finances, your health, your relationships, and your level of success. If you want a different future, you cannot continue repeating the same behaviors that created your current reality. Imagine trying to drive across the country with one foot on the accelerator and the other foot on the brake. No matter how powerful the engine is, you will never move as fast as you could. That is exactly what many people are doing with their lives. They have goals they want to achieve, but they continue feeding the habits that are pulling them in the opposite direction. They want success, but they waste hours every day on distractions. They want confidence, but they constantly criticize themselves. They want financial freedom, but they spend money trying to impress people who do not care about them. They want better health, but they continue choosing comfort over discipline. They want a better future, but they remain loyal to habits that belong to their past. You cannot create a new life while protecting old patterns. At some point, you must become ruthless with the things that are stealing your potential. The challenge is that most bad habits do not look dangerous in the moment. They appear harmless. One extra hour of scrolling through social media does not seem like a big deal. Procrastinating for one day feels insignificant. Choosing comfort over growth feels easy. But success and failure are rarely the result of one massive decision. They are usually the result of thousands of small choices repeated over time. A tiny leak can sink a giant ship. A tiny habit can destroy a giant dream. Every day, people underestimate the power of small actions. They think success is built through dramatic moments, but in reality, success is usually built through invisible disciplines. The things nobody sees are often the things that matter most. Nobody sees the early mornings. Nobody sees the sacrifices. Nobody sees the moments when you choose discipline instead of comfort. Nobody sees the times you refuse to quit when quitting would be easier. Those moments seem insignificant, but they are shaping the person you become. One of the most dangerous habits you can have is making excuses. Excuses are incredibly attractive because they protect your ego. They allow you to avoid responsibility while convincing yourself that your circumstances are to blame. Excuses make failure feel comfortable. They give you permission to stay where you are. But every excuse comes with a hidden cost. Every excuse delays your progress. Every excuse weakens your confidence. Every excuse reinforces the belief that you are powerless. Successful people understand that responsibility is not a burden. It is a gift. The moment you take responsibility for your life, you gain the power to change it. Another habit that destroys potential is waiting until you feel ready. Many people spend years waiting for the perfect moment. They tell themselves they will start when they have more money, more confidence, more experience, or more certainty. But the perfect moment never arrives. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the people who felt ready. They are the people who started before they felt ready. They understood that confidence is not something you gain before action. Confidence is something you gain because of action. Every step forward creates clarity. Every challenge creates growth. Every risk creates opportunity. If you wait until fear disappears, you may spend your entire life waiting. You must learn to act despite uncertainty. You must learn to move despite fear. You must learn to take action before all the conditions are perfect. Another habit that silently destroys success is seeking comfort at all costs. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it often becomes a prison over time. Growth and comfort cannot occupy the same space for very long. Every meaningful achievement requires temporary discomfort. The stronger body requires uncomfortable workouts. The successful business requires uncomfortable decisions. The extraordinary life requires uncomfortable growth. Many people want the rewards of success, but they spend their lives avoiding the discomfort required to earn it. The problem is that avoiding discomfort does not eliminate pain. It simply exchanges short-term discomfort for long-term regret. And regret is far more painful. The pain of discipline lasts a moment. The pain of regret can last a lifetime. You must also eliminate the habit of comparing yourself to others. Comparison steals focus. Comparison steals gratitude. Comparison steals momentum. When you compare your beginning to someone else's middle, you create unnecessary frustration. You stop appreciating your own progress because you become obsessed with someone else's growth. The goal is not to become better than someone else. The goal is to become better than you were yesterday. The only person you should compete with is the person you were before. Every day is an opportunity to improve. Every day is an opportunity to grow. Every day is an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than the version of yourself that existed 24 hours ago. That is where transformation happens. Not in perfection, not in comparison, but in consistent progress. Over these 7 days, take an honest look at your habits. Ask yourself what is helping you move forward and what is holding you back. Identify the distractions. Identify the excuses. Identify the negative thinking. Identify the patterns that no longer serve the future you want to create. And then make a decision to let them go. Because every habit you eliminate creates space for a better one. Every distraction you remove creates room for focus. Every excuse you eliminate creates room for responsibility. Every limiting behavior you abandon creates room for growth. The person you want to become is already waiting on the other side of your current habits. The question is whether you are willing to release what is familiar in order to become what is possible. Because the future you desire will always demand that you leave something behind. And the faster you eliminate the habits that are holding you back, the faster you become unrecognizable to the person you used to be. If you want to change your life, you must first change your mind. That may sound simple, but it is one of the most powerful truths you will ever understand. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change what is happening around them while ignoring what is happening inside them. They focus on changing their circumstances, their income, their relationships, their opportunities, and their environment. But they fail to recognize that everything they see in their outer world is influenced by what is happening in their inner world. Your life follows the direction of your thoughts. The mind is the control center of your entire existence. Every decision you make begins there. Every action you take starts there. Every habit you develop originates there. Before success becomes visible in your life, it first becomes possible in your mind. That is why the greatest battle you will ever fight is not against competitors, obstacles, or difficult circumstances. The greatest battle is the one taking place between your ears every single day. Most people lose that battle before they even leave their homes in the morning. They wake up worrying. They wake up doubting. They wake up focused on problems. They wake up replaying failures. They wake up expecting disappointment. Without realizing it, they are programming themselves for limitation before the day has even begun. Your mind is constantly listening to the story you tell yourself. If you repeatedly tell yourself that life is difficult, your mind will search for evidence to prove it. If you repeatedly tell yourself that opportunities are scarce, your mind will focus on what is missing. If you constantly tell yourself that success is for other people, your mind will convince you that your dreams are unrealistic. The human mind is incredibly powerful. It tends to move in the direction of whatever dominates your attention. What you focus on expands. If you focus on fear, fear grows. If you focus on problems, problems appear larger. If you focus on limitations, limitations become stronger. But if you focus on possibilities, opportunities begin to reveal themselves. If you focus on growth, your potential begins to expand. If you focus on solutions, your creativity starts working for you instead of against you. The quality of your life is heavily influenced by the quality of your thinking. That is why successful people guard their minds so carefully. They understand that not every thought deserves attention. They understand that not every opinion deserves consideration. They understand that not every fear deserves belief. Most people treat every thought as if it were true. A negative thought enters their mind, and they immediately accept it. A fear appears, and they surrender to it. A doubt surfaces, and they allow it to control their behavior. But just because a thought enters your mind does not mean it belongs there. You have the ability to challenge your thoughts. You have the ability to question them. You have the ability to reject ideas that do not serve your future. Imagine allowing a stranger to walk into your home and rearrange everything without permission. Most people would never tolerate that. Yet every day, they allow negative thoughts to enter their minds and take control without resistance. You must become the gatekeeper of your mind. You must become selective about what you allow to influence your thinking, because your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant will grow. Plant fear, and fear grows. Plant doubt, and doubt grows. Plant excuses, and excuses grow. But plant faith, confidence, discipline, and possibility, and those qualities grow as well. The challenge is that the modern world is constantly competing for your attention. Every day you are surrounded by distractions. You are surrounded by negativity. You are surrounded by information designed to keep you reacting instead of creating. Many people spend hours consuming content that weakens their focus and damages their confidence. Then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, distracted, and discouraged. Your mental diet is just as important as your physical diet. You would never expect to become physically healthy while consuming unhealthy food all day long. In the same way, you cannot expect to develop a strong mindset while constantly feeding your mind negativity. The books you read matter. The conversations you engage in matter. The videos you watch matter. The people you spend time with matter. Everything you consistently consume influences how you think, and how you think influences how you live. One negative voice repeated often enough can become a prison. One empowering belief repeated often enough can become a breakthrough. That is why you must become intentional about what enters your mind. Feed your mind with ideas that strengthen you. Feed your mind with knowledge that expands you. Feed your mind with messages that remind you of your potential. Your future is too important to be shaped by random influences. Another reason controlling your mind is so important is because circumstances are not always under your control. There will be challenges. There will be setbacks. There will be unexpected obstacles. There will be moments when life does not go according to plan. You cannot control every event that happens to you, but you can control your response. And your response often determines your outcome. Two people can face the exact same challenge and produce completely different results. One person sees defeat. The other sees opportunity. One person sees a reason to quit. The other sees a reason to grow. One person becomes a victim of circumstances. The other becomes stronger because of them. The difference is not always the situation. The difference is the mindset. The strongest individuals understand that they cannot always control what happens around, but they can control what happens within them. And that gives them an enormous advantage, because when your mind is strong, obstacles become lessons. Failures become feedback. Difficulties become opportunities for growth. Pressure becomes preparation. What breaks others begins to build you. As you move through these 7 days, make a commitment to take ownership of your mind. Pay attention to the thoughts you entertain. Pay attention to the words you speak. Pay attention to the beliefs you repeat. Stop feeding limitations. Stop rehearsing failures. Stop magnifying problems. Instead, train your mind to focus on possibilities. Train your mind to expect growth. Train your mind to seek solutions. Train your mind to believe that you are capable of more than you have demonstrated so far. Because the person who controls their mind gains control over their actions. The person who controls their actions gains control over their habits. The person who controls their habits gains control over their future. And when you master your mind, you begin mastering your life. That is the moment your transformation accelerates. That is the moment you stop being controlled by circumstances. That is the moment you become the architect of your future instead of the victim of your past. Because before you can control your life, you must first learn to control your mind. One of the greatest lies people tell themselves is that they need more time before they take action. They say they are preparing. They say they are planning. They say they are waiting for the right moment. But in reality, many people are simply delaying the very thing that would change their lives. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without action, dreams remain dreams. Without action, goals remain wishes. Without action, potential remains unused. The world is full of talented people who never achieved what they were capable of achieving because they never moved beyond the planning stage. They had ideas. They had goals. They had ambitions. They had visions of a better future. But they spent so much time thinking about success that they never fully committed to creating. Or success does not reward intentions. Success rewards execution. The difference between people who transform their lives and those who remain stuck is often not intelligence, talent, or resources. It is action. One person spends months talking about what they want to do. Another person starts immediately. One person waits until they feel ready. Another person takes action despite uncertainty. One person dreams, the other moves, and over time, the gap between them becomes enormous. The truth is that action creates momentum. The hardest part of almost anything is getting started. The first workout is the hardest. The first sales call is the hardest. The first video is the hardest. The first business decision is the hardest. The first step is usually the most difficult because it requires you to move without seeing the entire path. But once you start moving, something powerful happens. Momentum begins to build. Confidence begins to grow. Fear begins to shrink. Opportunities begin to appear. You gain experience. You gain clarity. You gain strength. None of those things happen while you are standing still. Many people believe clarity comes before action. In reality, clarity often comes because of action. You learn by doing. You grow by doing. You discover what works by doing. You discover what doesn't work by doing. The people who achieve extraordinary things understand that imperfect action is far more valuable than perfect intentions. They know they will make mistakes. They know they will encounter setbacks. They know they will not have every answer in advance, but they move forward anyway, because they understand that progress beats perfection every single time. Perfectionism has stopped more dreams than failure ever has. People wait for the perfect plan, the perfect opportunity, the perfect conditions, the perfect level of confidence. And while they wait, life passes them by. The most successful people are not perfect. They are simply willing to act before everything feels certain. They understand that action creates opportunities that planning alone never will. Another reason daily action is so important is because success is rarely the result of one giant breakthrough. Most people imagine success as a dramatic moment. They imagine one decision, one opportunity, or one lucky break changing everything overnight. But most extraordinary results are built through ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. A single workout may not transform your body. A single book may not transform your mind. A single business call may not transform your income. A single day of discipline may not transform your future. But when those actions are repeated day after day, week after week, and month after month, they create results that seem almost unbelievable. The power is not in one action. The power is in consistency. Small actions performed consistently are stronger than occasional bursts of motivation. Anyone can work hard for one day. Anyone can feel inspired for one weekend. Anyone can become excited for a short period of time. But transformation belongs to the people who continue taking action after the excitement fades, when nobody is watching, when progress feels slow, when results are not immediate, when quitting feels easier. Those are the moments that separate dreamers from achievers. Every day you delay action, you delay your future. Every day you procrastinate, you postpone the life you want. Every day you make excuses, you strengthen the habits that keep you stuck. But every day you take action, you build momentum. Every day you move forward, you become stronger. Every day you keep your promises to yourself, you develop confidence. Confidence is not something that magically appears. Confidence is earned. It is built through evidence. Every time you take action despite fear, you create evidence that you are capable. Every time you follow through despite discomfort, you create evidence that you can be trusted. Every time you refuse to quit, you create evidence that you are becoming stronger. Over time, that evidence changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who talks about goals. You become someone who pursues them. You stop identifying as someone who wishes for success. You become someone who creates it. You stop identifying as someone who waits. You become someone who acts. That identity shift is powerful, because once you see yourself as an action taker, your entire life begins to change. Opportunities that once seemed impossible become achievable. Challenges that once intimidated you become manageable. Goals that once felt distant become realistic. Not because the world changed, but because you changed. The next 7 days are not about making one massive move. They are about proving to yourself that you can take action every single day. Every day, do something that moves you closer to your goals. Make the call. Send the email. Read the chapter. Learn the skill. Create the content. Start the project. Finish the task. Take the step. Do not underestimate the power of daily progress. A plane changes its destination by adjusting its course a few degrees. Likewise, your future can change dramatically through small daily actions repeated consistently. You do not need to know every step. You only need to take the next one. You do not need to have everything figured out. You only need enough courage to move forward. Because action has a way of revealing what hesitation never will. The people you admire are not necessarily more talented than you. They are not necessarily smarter than you. They are not necessarily luckier than you. In many cases, they simply took action while others remained frozen by fear, doubt, and overthinking. They moved when others hesitated. They started when others waited. They persisted when others quit. And that is exactly why their lives became different. If you truly want to become unrecognizable in 7 days, stop asking yourself what could go wrong. Stop focusing on what you lack. Stop waiting for perfect circumstances. Instead, ask yourself one question every morning. What action can I take today that my future self will thank me for? Then do it. And when tomorrow arrives, do it again. Because massive action taken consistently has the power to accomplish more in 7 focused days than years of excuses ever will. The life you want is not waiting on more motivation. It is waiting on your action. And the moment you decide to move, your transformation begins. One of the fastest ways to become unrecognizable is to change the environment that is shaping you. Most people underestimate the power of their surroundings. They believe success is only about willpower. They believe discipline is simply a matter of trying harder. They believe motivation alone is enough to overcome every obstacle. But if that were true, far more people would be living the lives they dream about. The reality is that your environment influences your behavior more than you realize. Every day, your surroundings are sending messages to your mind. The people you spend time with, the conversations you engage in, the content you consume, the places you visit, and the standards you accept are all shaping your future. Whether you notice it or not, you are constantly adapting to your environment. If you spend enough time around negativity, you begin to think negatively. If you spend enough time around mediocrity, you begin to accept average results. If you spend enough time around people who complain, make excuses, and avoid responsibility, those habits slowly become normal. That is why changing your environment can create results much faster than trying to rely on willpower alone. Imagine placing a seed in poor soil. No matter how much potential that seed contains, it will struggle to grow. Now place that same seed in rich soil with sunlight, water, and proper care. Suddenly, growth becomes natural. The seed did not change. The environment changed. And often, that makes all the difference. Many people are trying to grow in environments that are working against them. They are trying to become disciplined while surrounding themselves with distractions. They are trying to think positively while constantly listening to negativity. They are trying to build confidence while spending time with people who criticize every dream they have. They are trying to create success while staying connected to individuals who are comfortable, settling for less. At some point, you must ask yourself a difficult question. Is my environment helping me become who I want to be, or is it helping me stay who I used to be? That question requires honesty, because sometimes the biggest obstacle to your future is not a lack of talent or opportunity. Sometimes it is the environment you refuse to outgrow. Growth often requires separation, not because you think you are better than anyone else, not because you no longer care about people, but because your future deserves protection. You cannot spend every day around people who discourage growth and expect to maintain a growth mindset. You cannot constantly absorb negativity and expect to stay positive. You cannot surround yourself with excuses and expect to develop discipline. Your environment either strengthens your goals or weakens them. There is very little middle ground. The people around you are especially important. The individuals you spend the most time with influence your standards, expectations, and beliefs more than almost anything else. Human beings naturally adapt to the people around them. If everyone around you believes success is impossible, eventually that belief starts feeling reasonable. If everyone around you settles for average, eventually average starts feeling acceptable. If everyone around you avoids responsibility, eventually excuses begin to sound normal. But the opposite is also true. When you surround yourself with ambitious people, ambition becomes normal. When you surround yourself with disciplined people, discipline becomes normal. When you surround yourself with individuals who take responsibility for their lives, accountability becomes normal. The standards of your circle often become the standards of your life. That is why successful people are intentional about who they allow into their inner circle. They understand that influence is powerful. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your mind, your energy, and your attention. Some relationships inspire growth. Others drain it. Some relationships challenge you to become better. Others encourage you to stay comfortable. Some relationships remind you of your potential. Others remind you of your fears. You must learn the difference. One conversation can change your mindset. One mentor can change your direction. One friendship can change your confidence. One community can change your future. Never underestimate the impact of being around people who expect more from themselves and from those around them. When you are surrounded by individuals who are pursuing excellence, it becomes difficult to remain average. Their habits influence you. Their mindset influences you. Their standards influence you. Their actions challenge you to elevate your own. This is why personal growth is often accelerated when you intentionally place yourself in environments that demand more from you. Read books written by people who have achieved what you want to achieve. Listen to voices that strengthen your thinking. Join communities focused on growth. Spend time with individuals who inspire action instead of excuses. Expose yourself to ideas that expand your vision of what is possible. Your environment is not limited to physical spaces. It also includes your digital environment. Many people spend hours every day consuming content that weakens their focus, fuels comparison, and reinforces negativity. Then they wonder why they struggle with confidence and motivation. What enters your mind repeatedly eventually shapes your beliefs. If you constantly consume negativity, fear becomes stronger. If you constantly consume distractions, focus becomes weaker. If you constantly consume content that encourages laziness, discipline becomes more difficult. Your digital environment matters. Your conversations matter. Your influences matter. Everything around you is either pushing you forward or pulling you backward. As you move through these 7 days, Take inventory of your environment. Look at the people around you. Look at the conversations you engage in. Look at the content you consume. Look at the habits your surroundings encourage. Ask yourself whether these influences are helping you become the person you want to become. If the answer is no, make adjustments. You do not need to change everything overnight, but you do need to become intentional. A single positive influence can create momentum. A single empowering relationship can create growth. A single environment focused on excellence can transform your expectations of yourself. Remember this: you will rarely rise far above the standards you repeatedly tolerate. If you tolerate excuses, excuses become normal. If you tolerate mediocrity, mediocrity becomes normal. If you tolerate negativity, negativity becomes normal. But if you surround yourself with excellence, growth, discipline, and possibility, those qualities begin to feel normal too. And when excellence becomes your new normal, your life begins to change in ways you never imagined. The truth is that becoming unrecognizable in 7 days is not only about changing your habits, it is also about changing the influences that shape those habits. Because the people around you, the environment you live in, and the standards you accept are constantly creating the person you are becoming. Choose those influences wisely. Protect your future fiercely. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, inspire you to dream bigger, and encourage you to take action. Because when your environment begins to support your growth instead of resisting it, transformation stops feeling impossible. It starts becoming inevitable. One of the biggest reasons people never reach their full potential is because they are waiting to feel confident before they take action. They believe confidence is something that appears first. They think successful people wake up every morning overflowing with certainty, motivation, and belief. But that is not how confidence works. Confidence is not something you find. Confidence is something you build, and it is built through proof. The problem is that most people are looking for evidence in the wrong place. They look for confidence in motivational speeches. They look for confidence in positive affirmations. They look for confidence in encouragement from others. While those things can help, real confidence comes from something much deeper. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you do what you said you were going to do, you create evidence. Every time you follow through despite discomfort, you create proof. Every time you act despite fear, you create proof. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you create proof. And that proof slowly changes how you see yourself. Most people have spent years building evidence for the wrong identity. They have repeatedly shown themselves that they quit when things get hard. They have repeatedly shown themselves that they procrastinate. They have repeatedly shown themselves that they abandon goals halfway through. Over time, those repeated actions become proof. Not proof of their potential, proof of their limitations. And because the mind trusts evidence more than words, they begin to believe that is who they are. That is why so many people struggle with self-belief. It is not because they lack talent. It is because they lack evidence. They keep making promises they never keep. They keep setting goals they never pursue. They keep talking about change without taking action. Eventually, they stop trusting themselves. Think about any relationship in your life. Trust is built when actions consistently match words. Trust is destroyed when promises are repeatedly broken. The same principle applies to the relationship you have with yourself. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken self-trust. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen it. The most powerful thing you can do over these next 7 days is begin rebuilding trust with yourself. Not through massive achievements, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through small daily wins. Many people underestimate the power of small victories because they are obsessed with big results. They want the promotion. They want the business. They want the transformation. They want the recognition. But they ignore the small actions that create those outcomes. The truth is that every major achievement is simply a collection of small victories stacked together. The championship is won one practice at a time. The successful business is built one decision at a time. The healthy body is created one workout at a time. The extraordinary life is formed one disciplined day at a time. Greatness is not created in one moment. It is created through repeated moments. That is why your goal during these 7 days is not perfection. Your goal is proof. Proof that you can wake up when you said you would. Proof that you can finish what you started. Proof that you can stay disciplined when motivation disappears. Proof that you can follow through on your commitments. Proof that you are becoming the person you said you wanted to be. These daily wins may seem insignificant in the moment. Waking up early, making your bed, completing a workout, reading a few pages, working on your goals for an hour, avoiding distractions, keeping your focus. Most people overlook these actions because they appear small, but success is rarely about one giant action. Success is usually the result of small actions performed consistently over time. A single drop of water seems powerless, yet over time, water can carve through solid rock. Consistency creates power. And daily wins create consistency. The reason daily wins matter so much is because they generate momentum. When you start your day with a victory, you carry that energy into the next task. When you complete one challenge, the next challenge feels easier. When you prove to yourself that you can win in small areas, you begin believing you can win in larger ones. Momentum is powerful because success tends to build upon itself. One disciplined day makes the next disciplined day easier. One productive week makes the next productive week easier. One fulfilled commitment makes the next commitment easier to keep. The opposite is also true. One excuse often creates another excuse. One delay often creates another delay. One broken promise often leads to another broken promise. That is why the direction matters more than the size. You do not need a perfect day. You need forward movement. You do not need a flawless week. You need consistent progress. You do not need to transform your entire life overnight. You need evidence that you are capable of growth. As you accumulate daily wins, something remarkable begins to happen. Your identity starts changing. You stop seeing yourself as someone who always quits. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. You stop seeing yourself as someone who lacks discipline. You start seeing yourself as someone who takes action. You stop seeing yourself as someone controlled by circumstances. You start seeing yourself as someone who creates results. That shift is powerful because identity drives behavior. Once you genuinely believe you are disciplined, disciplined actions become natural. Once you genuinely believe you are capable, taking action becomes easier. Once you genuinely believe you are committed, consistency becomes part of who you are. The confidence people admire is usually built on thousands of small victories nobody ever saw. The discipline people respect is usually built through countless moments of choosing growth over comfort. The success people celebrate is usually built through years of small actions repeated consistently. The world often notices the result, but the result is only the visible evidence of invisible daily wins. Over these 7 days, focus on collecting victories, not for other people, for yourself. Build a record of proof. Show yourself what you are capable of. Keep your promises. Follow through on your commitments. Take action even when you do not feel like it. Win the small battles, because every small victory sends a message to your mind, a message that says, I am becoming stronger. I am becoming more disciplined. I am becoming more focused. I am becoming the person capable of achieving my goals. And eventually those messages stop being hopes. They become beliefs. Those beliefs become actions. Those actions become habits. Those habits become results. And those results create a version of you that looks completely different from the person you used to be. That is how people become unrecognizable. Not through one extraordinary moment, but through hundreds of ordinary moments where they chose discipline over excuses, action over hesitation, and progress over perfection. One daily win at a time. One promise kept at a time. One step forward at a time. Until one day they look back and realize they are no longer the person they once were. They have become someone stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more confident, and more capable than they ever imagined. And it all started with the decision to build proof through daily wins. Here's a powerful, emotional, and high-impact conclusion that fits the entire speech. 7 days. That's all we're talking about. Not 7 years. Not 7 months. Just 7 days of intentional decisions, disciplined actions, and relentless commitment to becoming someone better than you were yesterday. The truth is, at the end of these 7 days, Your bank account may not be completely different. Your circumstances may not be completely different. The world around you may look exactly the same. But if you've done what most people won't do, something far more important will have changed. You will. You'll think differently. You'll act differently. You'll carry yourself differently. You'll respond to challenges differently. You'll see opportunities where others see obstacles. You'll develop a level of confidence that doesn't come from motivation. It comes from proof. Because confidence isn't built by watching other people win. It's built by keeping promises to yourself. And over these 7 days, every decision, every sacrifice, every disciplined action becomes evidence that you are capable of more.